All right, picking up from my last point there, you can pretty much reasonably expect high levels of manipulation when attempting to convey anything meaningful, relevant, or controversial in this new reality that we're in. It's hard to explain, but censorship is inevitable and to be expected if you have anything truthful or relevant to say. There seems to be an emphasis on superfluous bullshit that does not matter. That's a theme it's almost comical. I just always related to that film Idiocracy. It's very similar to that. Like we're watching a whole generation of people basify and regress in a way that is hard to pinpoint, but for me it's impossible to not think about all the time and be able to articulate. So I would imagine that I've encountered a handful of people at least along the way that can articulate this particular situation and scenario that's happening to them. So it's may not be widespread and we all see from different angles and whatnot, but it seems to be a common theme across the board is that we're watching things silently go in a direction. And it's very unfortunate because most people won't accept that information for many reasons. Like the focus on the toxic false positivity in the world pretty much reinforces this kind of concept, and it obscures and downplays tragic events that happen as these false flag campaigns and scenarios obscure what's really going on. In a way, it's basically a way of silencing whistleblowers, people that perhaps know too much of the relevant information. It's just a scary, weird thing to think about how mental freedoms have been infringed upon in such a way that we can't even speak about it. It's understood. We've absorbed it and we feel it. We just don't want to ever think about it or feel it naturally. That's a human defense mechanism, coping process. Like life has pretty much become a weird coping process where I can't really expect too many people to dig on my ideology, but the ones that do really do. And that's pretty much where I'm at with it. Like it's just a barren world that's becoming more and more barren. So you're gonna have to try like hell to find the others. Pretty much like that's the whole philosophy of my life is like see who all is on the same wavelength. There won't be that many, but there, but that's the whole point. That's how few real people are in the world. And that's a weird thing to even consider, but that's the absolute truth. People have lost humanity, and you can't explain that to somebody who's lost their humanity. That's the tricky part. And then they're here, and they're a prohibition, and they're just obstacles that we have to endure on this path of life that is going towards a more spiritual arena for people like me. I believe it's all leading up to that. The meek will inherit the earth, so to speak. So, but as time marches along, our will to fight back and speak out seems to diminish, and that's an odd thing I've noticed. Despite more information, we're seeing no action or less action, so to speak. So it's weird, but there's always going to be factors: mental wear down, fear tactics, technological interference that is heavily prevalent in our lives, and hard to pinpoint, but we know. And spiritual attacks, things that happen that we can't quite explain. ESP phenomenon. Um, when this whole event began to take shape in my mind, and I began to notice things for what they truly were, certain things began to happen. My frequency rose, and I seem to have underwent like a physical transformation as well. It's something I noticed on a personal level as I began to awaken. My frequency was certainly rising. It's risen to a very high degree actually. And I just began to notice changes in my environment, synchronicities. Things would add up. Numerology began to stand out heavily to me. Essentially, this whole thing has really weirded me out and caused me to become spiritual in a nutshell. And it's just been a thing of my life that I've had to make sense of and work through while balancing normal and doing normal things like going to work and you know being a human being, appearing to be normal in other words, and not like I'm wigged out by all this, because this is all designed to make us feel crazy and to make us feel like we have no outlet, to drone us out, to depress us, and to make us go away over time. That's why I'll say it again, it's the work of the absolute devil, and it's happening to hopefully present a challenge for people to think, where do I lie on that scale? And it should be pretty obvious where you want to lie. But are you willing to do the right thing to get to the better end of that spectrum? We'll see. This is definitely the weakest generation of people in terms of their moral bankruptcy. It's just, this whole generation of people has been droned out with this type of influencing for far longer than we ever realized. We had just been living it, and now we're a little bit more aware about that type of thing, and it just makes more sense when I look back at how time's progressed. Like everything that's happening in the world, while silently stated, is definitely prophecy being fulfilled from many many years ago, which is a crazy thing to think. But living life internally for me has been a spiritual battle, and externally it's been like business as usual. And I've had to make a lot more time for my spiritual time because that's where I actually refresh my soul and actually can be who I am, like by myself. Hence me even doing any of this shit, to be completely honest. But as the world keeps turning, our cortisol is going to be raising to the crazy degree, and by and large, we're just having days, minutes, and hours shaved off our lives through all types of third-party means. Like none of us signed up for this shit, but we're enduring it, and we just need to go into it knowing that won't be our best life, but the whole point here is to still live a life because creative, free thinking minds are not encouraged. So if you have a mind that thinks for yourself, consider it a point to be here. It's gonna be miserable. We're living on a literal prison planet, but just gotta make the fucking best of it and hope to circumvent the system and break through these weird invisible barriers because life just doesn't happen organically. There's so many factors against anything organically good happening in the world, just through for all types of reasons that we have to live a certain type of way, and we have to expect that things aren't going to go our way, but maybe they'll go a way that results in us still living, finding a meaning to. You know what I mean? But just to end on this point, this is all designed to be a slow kill of our mind, body, and spirit. Literally, it's a spiritual attack on us all the time. And that's the thing, like, you don't have to be a spiritual person to know that we're all being drained. Like, we're all being tested. It's the universe speaking to all of us, saying that so much control, so much manipulation, so much influencing over a course of time, it reaches that sickly peak, and I think that we're nearing that sickly peak. And it's just time to be better and not bitter and worse. But, anywho, I hope everybody gets through these normal motions that we have to get through that are so taxing. Like, sitting here talking about this feels so normal, but to have a small talk conversation with anybody about anything is dreadful, and it just kills my spirit doing so. Which has probably made me into what you might call a repressed person, or a loner, but honestly, you can do badly all by yourself, and that's where I'm at with it. When I look at my environment, I am an army of one, and I will continue to be. But love you guys. Peace.